My friends, I'm sure you have noticed in today's culture, we live in a society where people are increasingly subscribing to the belief of depression as a condition that enslaves their minds and their life. And here's what had me think about this. Yesterday, we had a physician case review where essentially our topic of discussion was the idea of depression as a clinical condition. And I want to preface this. I do believe that there are some people with certain inescapable chemical imbalances in their brain, but out of all of the people who subscribe to a diagnosis of depression that it totally just rules their life and prevents them from being a functional member of society, I believe that the ones that are a true diagnosis, the ones that have a true medical condition underlying their depression, I believe that that is a small minority. That is maybe 2 to 5% of all of the people that we diagnose with depression. I believe in many cases, depression is under your control. That depression is quite frankly a visceral reaction where your soul is telling you that you are not living up to your full potential, and it is reminding you to change. Just as pain, physical pain, is your body telling you to move away from a stimulus. If you put your hand to a fire, it hurts because your body wants you to move away from it to prevent further damage. Similarly, I believe that depression is a psychological response. It is a soul response to you not living up to your full potential. I'll discuss a little bit about this patient to give you an example. So in this case study, he was initially diagnosed at age 17 with depression, at which point he weighed over 300 pounds. He also had a mother that was diagnosed with bipolar depression and was medicated for her disorder as well, telling him that depression is a crippling condition over which he has no control. This man said that when he was initially diagnosed with depression at age 17, he did nothing but lay around and eat because he didn't feel motivated to do anything. He didn't feel motivated. He later went on to become an alcoholic. But in his 20s, he went to a psychiatrist, got medicated for depression, got put on some different meds, which I think more so had a possible placebo effect in this gentleman, and you'll see why later on. These meds made him feel like he had something that could let him overcome. I don't believe it was the effect of the meds themselves, and you'll see later on. But this gentleman, after he got put on meds, after he went and saw a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist said, "I can help you," this guy became active. He began feeling motivated. He lost 150 pounds. He got a job. He got married, and he started feeling good about his life. However, later on, his therapist told him that it was not good for his mental health to find his value in the things that he has achieved. He shouldn't feel good about losing weight and making money and getting married and accomplishing things. He shouldn't feel good about those things. It's not good for your mental health, because he should embrace his condition of depression. He should embrace it as a part of him and love himself for him and not for what he's accomplished. And after being told this by his therapist, despite being on multiple meds and having other meds added, this man sank back into his depression. And at this point, he stopped working. He didn't leave his couch. He gained his weight back again. And then he started relying on his wife for financial support. Even though this man was on the same meds he was on before and had more meds added, he sank back into depression. Why? What got him out of depression before was hope. His psychiatrist told him, "I can help you, I'm going to give you some meds." And his belief in those meds is what got him out of depression. And this is proven by the fact that he went back into the depression, even worse, even after being on the same meds and having more added. So, at this point of him lapsing back into his depression, ceasing and quitting his job, he's not working, he's laying on the couch, he's drinking beer, he's sulking in his own insufficiency and just being a slave to his depression. His wife left him. His wife filed for divorce after years of this man being in depression and not doing anything at all, staying on the couch, not working, feeling sorry about himself. His wife got up and left. And this man claimed that his depression got worse, despite now being on even more meds. So now he's on all of these meds and the strongest treatments possible, and he's still depressed. So it proves that it's not the medications themselves. Right now, this man has lived in his parents' basement and he still doesn't work. He says he's a little bit better now with his new medications that he's now got added even more. But yet this man still doesn't have a job. He's still living in his parents' basement. He's still sulking in his feeling of helplessness. Today, this man now claims that he finds his real support in his mental health victims community. A community of people who all ascribe to this belief that depression rules their life and that they're helpless against it. He said he finds his support in all these people. They gather together and they discuss their disability. They discuss why they are enslaved, and they make each other feel comfortable and feel okay with being a victim. Because he finds more people who are victims just like him, he feels better, he feels more consoled. This man now says that his main purpose in life, his main feeling of fulfillment, is striving to fight against the stigma of mental health and the stigma of how people perceive those who struggle with mental health. He also blames his wife for being narcissistic in leaving him. He says that if his wife had only understood his condition and how it's something that he cannot control, that she wouldn't have left. If only she wasn't so narcissistic and was more empathetic, she would not have left. This man says that he cannot help his current circumstances because he doesn't have the motivation to get up and do better. He says that his condition of depression takes away his motivation to do better. So what can we learn from this? What can we learn about this sad, unfortunate tale? A man who I really feel sorry for. What can we learn? We can learn that the victim mindset is evil. It is destructive. It doesn't come from anywhere good. As a matter of fact, in the scriptures, the Bible says that God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. A sound mind. And listen, if fear, if insecurity, if doubt, if being a slave to your emotions is not described as a simple feeling or emotion, but described as a spirit and not a spirit of God, then where does that spirit come from? You see, many people ascribe to this idea of depression because being a victim is easier than being accountable. And we have a lack of accountability in our world. To simply say this idea of depression is the reason why I'm a loser, that's so much easier than simply saying I'm a loser because I chose to be a loser. I'm a loser because I am inadequate. And it is very slave-minded to think that how you feel should determine your motivation. You see, being a man, and even more so being a man of value, is about doing what you have to do when you have to do it, whether you feel like it or not. You see, feelings and emotions are normal, but they shouldn't control you. I even believe that things like stress, anxiety, and feeling depressed are normal responses to life and circumstances. If you are under a tremendous amount of financial pressure and you don't know how to pay your bills, it is a perfectly normal response to feel stressed. If your life is in danger, in combat, it is perfectly normal for you to feel anxious. If you've lost someone very dear and close to you, if you've gone through a divorce, it is very normal for you to feel depressed. See, I believe you can be depressed, but I don't believe for most people that depression can have you. For most people, I don't believe in depression as a diagnosis that enslaves you, that entraps you, that prevents you from living your life. You see, anything that has you bound, anything that you cannot control, is a serious problem. And for you to want to defend your idea of helplessness, for you to want to defend your diagnosis of depression and how you cannot stop it, to me, I find that wild. Because wouldn't you rather believe that you have control over something? You see, by making everything completely your fault, good or bad, you give yourself ultimate power. And I agree with Andrew Tate on this point that he gets a lot of controversy for by saying depression is something that he doesn't believe in. Because even if it is real, if I choose not to believe in it, I put myself in a position of power. As I said before, depression is more often than not your soul telling yourself that your life is crap. And unlike this man's therapist, I firmly believe that you should feel motivated and validated by success. By getting things done, by getting in shape, by making money, by having your life on the right trajectory. You should be validated and feel motivated by doing what is hard and getting results from it. But even if you don't feel motivated, you should still continue doing it. You should still continue doing what you have to do when you have to do it, whether you feel like it or not. Because being a man is not about what you feel. It's about what you know. It's about submitting your emotions and your feelings to your drive and to your purpose. And guess what? I also agree that you should feel bad about being a loser. If you are fat, if you are overweight, if you are broke, if you are poor, if you're struggling with bills, if you can't get women to like you, if you can't keep a woman around you, I think you should feel like crap. I think you should feel depressed, but you shouldn't have depression. And your feeling of absolute misery should motivate you to become a better man. Because I don't see a whole lot of people out here who are making the money that they want, driving the car that they want, living in the house that they want. They have the body that they want, and they can attract all the women that they want. They have the status that they want, and when they walk into the room, people respect them. People know that this man is a superior. I don't see many people who are living that life who claim to be depressed. And those who are even in that place of superiority, those who are in that top echelon of men who are living that life, who still say they're feeling depressed, for most of them, I say suck it up. I say look at your life and compare it to others and realize how good you have it. You see, when you live in a world where people are ruled by their feelings and by their emotions, you're going to have a lot of people that are emotionally fickle and emotionally weak and ascribing to ideas like depression and anxiety every time they feel something. And those things that they feel, I dare say, are a normal part of the human experience, because since the beginning of time, the majority of human history before now, before the last 100 years, it has been hard. The life of the lowest members of society now, who still have running water, electricity, the ability to refrigerate food, is still better than the life of a king 1,000 years ago. And when we read back through history, we see lots of people whose entire villages were enslaved. We see people who had to walk across deserts and march on military campaigns where many of their fellow soldiers are falling dead. We see many instances of real hardship throughout history. And these people did not complain of depression. These people did not complain of being a slave to anxiety, being a slave to their emotions. They just knew that this was life and that they had to deal with it. And even the kings of ancient times, I say, had more pride in themselves than the average person now. Even though we established that the average person in the lowest classes of society still lives better than the kings from 1,000 years ago. But those kings still were proud of themselves. They wanted to make a name for themselves. They named themselves great names. Like King Darius and King Cyrus of Persia called themselves the king of the world. Alexander called himself Alexander the Great. King Richard named himself King Richard the Lionheart. Why? Because these men were proud of what they've accomplished. They understood that because they were where they are, in a place of superiority in society, they had a reason to be proud. They had a reason to feel good, even though their life was actually harder than the life of the average peasant now. So what's your excuse? And even more so, when you look back through history, those who are really depressed, those who are documented to have been depressed and in the deepest depths of gloom, many of them were attributed to be influenced by a demon. Look at King Saul. When his kingdom was collapsing in front of him and he knew that his power would be handed over to David, it said that an evil spirit came upon him that caused him to be in the deepest darkness of gloom and misery. So do you want to identify with something that has been for thousands of years associated with the demonic forces? Or do you want to change your life and make yourself into something that is worth being proud of? And many people say that I'm not being sensitive to people, that I don't understand, that depression is real and they can't help it, and I'm just being mean. But I tell you this, I say that I'm giving you a positive message. Because if you think that you're truly a slave to your depression and you cannot help it, then that is a position of hopelessness. But instead, I'm giving you power. I'm offering you a doctrine that gives you ultimate authority over your own life. That basically says that you can feel better by getting the results that will make you better. Once again, if in your mind you make everything that happens to you completely your fault, good or bad, you give yourself ultimate power and put yourself in a position where you can make whatever you want out of life. I've been through real hardship. I've been through real pain. I've been through real trauma. There were times when I thought that it might be easier if I was dead, but guess what? I kept going. I used that as motivation to make my life better. And I'm sure had I seen a psychiatrist at that time, they would have diagnosed me as clinically depressed and put me on all kinds of meds. But you know what? You know how I beat feeling depressed? By making my life better. By building a life that is not depressing. I dare say that most of the people that are depressed, like the patient that I told you about, they are depressed because they are living a depressing life. And it is their body, it is their soul, it is their mind, it is their spirit reacting and telling them, you're not living up to your potential. Now, if you watch this video and you're saying, you're so rude, I can't help it, I'm a slave to this depression. If you want to defend your condition, that's fine. If you want to stay enslaved to something, that's fine. But there's other people who are going to see this message, who are going to say, you know what? I can do better. Thank you for this motivation, because I see now that I don't have to be a slave and they're going to make their lives better. And I hope that you choose to be the latter. I'm giving you your power back. God is giving you your power back. You have all the tools to make your life what you want it to be. You have all the tools to earn for yourself a non-depressing life, and use your depression as motivation to be stronger, richer, sexier, more desirable, so that you'll never have to be depressed again. Now go forth and conquer, my friends. The world is yours.